Well, welcome everybody. Welcome, fellow explorers. Mr. Dingle, good to see you, my friend.
Hello, hello. What's going on, Johnny?
You're looking pretty clear today. You're looking like your resolution's looking good too.
Oh, that's good. Look, it's from my computer again, so
Ah,
hopefully it stays like this.
no, it looks good, man.
Thank you. This picture in the background is actually a shot of an angel that I actually caught. I don't know if you can kind of see
Oh
the
yeah,
figure, but it's
kind
an
of see
angel. I
like the
kind of one
looks
of
like
those big.
flaming wings there.
Yeah, yeah, right. And it's in the direction, and I forget the date that I took this on, but it's in the direction of DC, Washington, DC.
Ah, very
Right over
nice.
DC. And I forget what date it was, but it was a specific date on something that happened on DC that was reported the next day. But yeah, so I figured I'd put that in the background since we're talking about some supernatural things.
Very cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of supernatural, spiritual, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of stuff happening right now, and
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
only appropriate to have that picture because I think people are going to start seeing more and more stuff like that.
Yes. Yes. A lot of I think the exposure, and this includes the whole Bigfoot, situation. The main exposure, the unveiling that is taking place right now. Okay, we're seeing things physically, but I think more so, what's really going to wake people up is the spiritual side of things that are going to be unveiled, and it's going to be that's going to be the huge part of this awakening, is when
Oh yeah,
people realize how real things are happening in the spirit. You know, so yeah, it's gonna be something.
I think some of these interdimensional beings are going to become a little less interdimensional, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh,
It's like what's happening is the kingdom of darkness lost. I mean, they're done. So right now they're just doing the best that they can to try to disrupt things and just take everybody down with them. You know what I mean? It's like we see what's happening. It's like they're just trying to take other people down with them, but
they try. They can try all they want.
they can try all they want. Ain't gonna happen.
Hello, everybody that's joining. Hello, Luann. Luann says hi,
Hello,
guys.
hello. Hey, hey.
Um, if you didn't see the last video, we started a series on cryptic creatures, and
Mhm.
part one of Bigfoot was last time. So if you get a chance, rewatch that or watch it for the first time if you haven't watched it.
Mhm.
Bigfoot's just one of those big conglomerations of things that it's hard to talk about in like an hour here or an hour there. It's like you'd almost have to have like a month long conference or something like that. And
Mhm.
so we're gonna try to give you a little taste of some more Bigfoot this week. I'm gonna relay a personal experience that I had when I lived in Tennessee,
Mhm.
and we're just we're trying to open your minds a little bit, trying to tickle your brains, so to speak, and to get you thinking about things that maybe you didn't know existed, or maybe just kind of sort of heard about but never really paid attention to, and just have fun. We're not trying to make you believe anything. We just want you to have some fun.
Yeah. Luann, you can actually ask the angel yourself. You can ask these angels yourself, just like you can talk to the Lord and he responds, angels respond as well. I remember when I met that fire angel, Uriel, I actually asked the angel, I asked the Lord, I was like, who is this? And it was the angel that actually spoke back, Uriel.
He's like,
And
hey,
that's
you're
that's the
talking
name
to
that I
me.
saw. Yeah, it's like that. Look, that's the name that I actually saw um kind of in my imagination, because we got to understand your imagination is the doorway to the spirit realm. People don't
Mhm.
understand that. So what is in your imagination connects you to be able to see and um, interact in the spirit realm. So Yeah, ask them, and you might see a name in your imagination, or you might even hear some type of name in your imagination as well.
Is Uriel, is that the angel that Enoch was referring to in the book of Enoch?
Yes,
Okay,
exactly. And in the Bibles, it was the angel that was in the burning bush
gotcha. I knew
that
it sounded
Moses was seeing.
familiar, but I just thought so. Oh, hello, Linda.
Mhm.
Linda Mom says, "Wake up, America! God is opening eyes."
Yeah.
Thank you both for all you do. God bless you, and God bless you too, Linda Mom. Thank you for showing up. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes, yes.
So I want to get this rolling with a something I was going to read last time, but I can't remember if I read. I don't think I did, but
Okay.
I'm going to read it. It's kind of give you a little refresher of the old Squatch, the old Bigfoot, the old Big Feet, for those of you that may need it.
Yes.
It says, people sometimes report one smell, then suddenly it changes into an entirely different odor. And the only reason I'm reading this because it ties in with my story. Odors have been described as rotten flesh, poop. Wow, somebody used poop in a sentence. Poop, old vomit, outhouses, rotted fish, rotten eggs, or foul and just sickening. Bigfoot seems to make ape-like grunts and growls to almost a scream-like sound, and others have heard whistles and strange calls. Indians almost all believe Bigfoot is a non-physical creature, and I think that's important to what we were talking about last time. With these interdimensional beings, or whatever they are. But I just think it's interesting that the Native Americans believe Bigfoot was a non-physical creature. Some Indian tribes mention that they have seen the creature transform into a wolf. Others think that these creatures live in another dimension from the physical plane, but can come here as they desire. And we talked about that last time as well.
Right.
Some also believe Bigfoot has great psychic abilities, which you brought up last time. Reports of sightings show the creature can be visible to some people while at the same time remain invisible to others in the same group. There are many reports from non-Indians who saw the creature after a UFO sighting. That's interesting. I haven't heard that one. And others that have searched for and researched Bigfoot for years are coming to the conclusion that the creature is a spiritual being because he can appear or disappear at will. Great Lakes Indians mention that if one is walking in the woods and you hear the sound of a stick being hit against a hollow log or tree, beware, for this area is Sasquatch territory. And if you watch the show Finding Bigfoot, that is a big part of their show.
Yeah.
This seems to be an interesting thing to note because other non-Indians have even reported this. I feel like I'm in school again, reading to the class. And I'm doing about just as well. People have reported that sometimes the stick hitting is loud or thud-like a large log is being hit against a tree, while at other times it is more like a small stick is being used. Some Bigfoot researchers have reported sightings right after hearing these strange sounds. Besides the stick hitting, another well-documented fact many Bigfoot researchers report is rock throwing, and we talked about that last time. Researchers have had stones thrown at them, at their vehicles, and there have been also reports from people living in Bigfoot hotspots, which to me is the whole world, or having stones thrown on the roofs and against their homes and cabins. The creature's episodes of hitting sticks and rock throwing may be the best evidence we have to show that they are spiritual beings. If you research paranormal cases involving poltergeist incidents, you will soon realize that many of the cases involve the throwing or dropping of stones against houses and on the roofs of the homes where the poltergeist attacks are occurring. That's an interesting take. In many of the poltergeist cases, the stones being dropped and thrown were the beginning of the infestation or encounter, just like in Bigfoot cases. That was from Robert Benjamin, and that was in January 2020. So just a little precursor there for those that missed last show. That kind of sums up a few things that we talked about. And both Joe and I think are big on the idea that these are spiritual beings or interdimensional beings or whatever, and that's why they're so hard to see. And the idea that not everybody can see them even in the same group, or they only appear to certain people and not others, or they don't leave a lot of, you don't find a lot of bodies laying around.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, you think about it. You've never heard of bodies being like, pretty much tore up based on, some type of, I guess, Bigfoot or something that they can't even, they haven't found out or discovered what happened. Usually people go missing when it comes to Bigfoot stuff.
Hmm.
And
That's
and I
right.
think you read something too where it was a story of somebody who was, I guess, they were lost for a long time or whatever. And they explained how they were in like a different place or something like that. I don't know if it was you, but I might have been watching something, and maybe on the History Channel or something, or one of the shows that you were talking about, and they were
Yep.
talking about that. It was at the time he was a young boy. He was like kind of young, and he was talking about that. So yeah, I mean, sometimes people go missing for a long time, and they come back talking about how they've had these experiences with these Bigfoots, hairy big people. Hmm.
Hairy big people. That's cool. I like that one.
Hmm.
There's and there's just this. It's one of those things. As a rabbit hole that's really deep, and even if you use Google or whatever search engine you like using,
Hmm.
there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures and accounts and books and movies. Uh, that they dedicated an entire show on Animal Planet. Finding Bigfoot. There's just so much information out there that, like I said, it's hard to cover. But if you want to spend your own time, it really is a rabbit hole that's not like a one nighter kind of thing. And
Oh yeah.
there's
And oh, go ahead.
old articles, and you can find them all the way back, from the 1700s and
Right.
that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's so true. I mean, and this stuff has been going on for a long time. And like we talked about, besides Bigfoot, we talked about the Nephilim.
Mhm.
Which Bigfoot could possibly be a part of the Nephilim. Where you have these. I've heard stories. Um, and I think I was watching, was it L.A. Marzulli or Steve Quayle, and they were talking about how this one guy, he was on there as a guest, and he was actually a pastor,
Mhm.
and he went to a certain location, I think, and he was camping, and just began to feel, this presence of just fear, and like he was, in terror. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? So like
Oh
that's
yeah.
the type of environment that they bring, and of course, anything that brings fear, that type of atmosphere, we know is of the enemy. Is of Satan. So, but then I heard stories of Bigfoot, Sasquatch beings that were nice, and all these other things. And so it's like you never know. You never know.
Yeah, you do. You never know. And
Hmm.
there are, let's see, one of the older printed records that I could find. I mean, it's not like super old, but that the internet would allow me to find anyway was like in San Francisco from 1956. And of course, they have a clever title, Bigfeet of Foot.
Hmm.
you know, those journalists have to be clever. But this is a famous account, and you can find the story that's online if you just research that date in San
Hmm.
Francisco Chronicle. There's also, uh, I live in Ohio, for those of you that don't know.
Hmm.
Um, Ohio, and Joe was talking about it earlier, and it was mentioned in what I read, but there seems to be a lot of hot spots. And I can tell you, when I was young, I didn't think about it, but as I got older, I didn't realize Ohio is like a hot spot for Bigfoot sightings. It has like it's either the second or third most sightings in the country happen in
Hmm.
Ohio,
Hmm.
and especially southern Ohio, along the West Virginia, Kentucky, that area where there's the mountains start to form down there, and there's a lot of forest that things can hide in, I guess. And one of the largest conferences in the world for Bigfoot is actually in Ohio. So I just thought
Hmm.
that was kind of interesting. Um,
Wow.
I
Yeah, I
think,
never knew that. I never knew that about Ohio. That there was a lot of sightings there.
well, Jersey, has quite a few sightings too, but I think they get lumped in with the New Jersey Devil.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've heard of is the New Jersey Devil.
Because there's a lot of different names around the country. I guess there's all kinds of little pet names.
Uh-huh.
I thought I had them written down, but I guess I don't. There's a place called Ape Canyon in Cougar, Washington.
Uh-huh.
It just struck me as odd because of the name. It's called Ape Canyon. It says this scenic gorge is named after one of the most famous Bigfoot attacks, and I like how they use the word attack, like Bigfoot attacks in pseudo history. It says Ape Canyon is a narrowing gorge sitting just to the southeast of Mount St. Helens, where one of the most famous Bigfoot attacks in the cryptozoological canon is said to have taken place in 1924, eventually giving the nature spot its name. And I think this goes into the attack here. According to a story that was widely run in Washington and Oregon newspapers at the time, it was on a summer night in July 1924 that a small cabin housing a group of miners came under attack by a gang of wild ape men. According to the 5 miners, all of whom survived the incident and seemed convinced of its facts, they were asleep when the attack started. Seemingly out of nowhere, the cabin they had hand built began being hit by huge stones. We were just talking about that, being hit by huge stones that were being thrown by mountain devils on all sides. The men began to shoot at the monsters, and the attacks would cease only to start back up again minutes later. At one point, one of the supposed Sasquatch reached into the cabin through a hole in the construction and took hold of an axe, but was stymied, love that word, before he could pull it out of the building. The siege continued until daybreak. When the men finally inched their way out of the cabin, one of the men, Fred Beck, saw one of the Bigfoot standing in the distance at the edge of what is now Ape Canyon. Beck fired, and the creature supposedly watching it tumble into the gorge. So let's see. I guess there's a continuation. I'm sorry. Beck would go on to write a book about their experience that night, speculating that the ape men were in fact extra dimensional beings. There's that concept again. But some more grounded theories have also been posited. The most popular explanation for the sensational story is that it was a gang of local youth that were bombarding the cabin with rocks, as youths are wont to do. Thanks to the acoustics of the canyon, it is possible that their voices were made to seem beastly or extra dimensional, as it were. And this is from somebody named Eric Grundhauser. So take that story for what you will. And again, I don't necessarily like to use the word attacks because that's not the norm. Like in a lot of the stories that you hear, especially from Native Americans and older stories, they really don't talk about attacks. It's more just happenstance encounters and in passing kind of things, and an occasional, tossing of a rock or whacking of a tree. Hello, Nikki. Sorry, just throwing that out there.
Hey, hey, Angie. Angie is on. Angie's one of our admins for our Telegram group. It's good to have you on here. Yeah, well, the name of this show is called Exploring. So we're doing a little bit of exploring. Of course, we both love Christ and we love Jesus, but there are other topics and subjects, besides Jesus that we like to kind of dab and talk, look into, and to expose and explore as well. So, of course, it's nothing against Jesus because we're, he's our Lord and our Savior. But, tonight we're just kind of talking about a different subject. We had topics talking about angels. Of course, we talked about the fallen angels and stuff in the past. But these things are not distractions off of Jesus. They can be. It depends on the person. All right. So it depends on the person. You feel that it's a distraction for you off of Jesus, then you probably might not want to watch this show. But we just dibble, we explore different things, and we expose the truth, of course. So I just want to kind of address some of the comments that she had left. So yeah, just for those who watch the show, we're doing exploring. This is not a thing where it's just all about one subject, but we're exploring a little bit, and we're talking about things that are that everybody question, that everybody look into. Of course, we connected to the Bible, and we connected to Christ, but we're not a religious, quote unquote religious type of show. So we're doing some exploring, and we're just kind of exposing the truth, of course, being led by the Holy Spirit, of course. So just wanted to put that out there real quick.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I think before I continue on, I think I might go through my story. I
want to hear that.
I can hear my wife's voice in my head telling me to keep it short. So I have a tendency to be long-winded when I tell stories, especially things that happen to me and that I'm kind of passionate about, like that I experienced. So and being a story, writer kind of thing, I'm always like trying to give all the details and all the, so everybody you can feel like you're there, you can experience it yourself. Yeah. So I'll try to cut that back a little bit, but for about 5 or 6 years, I lived in East Tennessee. I lived just north of Knoxville. Lived up at about 3,500 foot elevation. So from my office, I could see the Smoky Mountains. It was beautiful, beautiful place. When I first moved there, got it all. I had 20 acres, horses, the whole 9 yards. But this was before I brought the horses home. So this is just as I was clearing the property, having a few acres cleared for a pasture. It's kind of a hilly property. So behind my house, it was almost immediately a hill that went up, and then it flattened off. And then there was a tree line that went as far as the eye could see. There was, there's thousands of acres of woods around my house because of the other families' properties that surround it. Like, if you know who Kenny Chesney is and Chet Aikens and that kind of stuff, their families had property that bordered my property. So very secluded. It was nice. Got to get away from the world, so to speak, when I came home. Oh yeah, the wife does. She says, "Law, he does," but it's a good story.
Oh, you got some time. He has some time.
Nikki, I was just in Knoxville yesterday, back in Michigan now. Well, that's awesome. I love East Tennessee, just FYI. Nice. So anyway, back to the story. So I had a border collie. My dog kind of stuck with me everywhere I went. So as we were clearing the property, I had the guy that was excavating. He dug this really big hole, for lack of a better word. It was probably about a 12-foot wide by about 6 foot deep. And they would just push whole trees into this hole, and they would use diesel fuel to burn them. So it was like a giant burn pit. So at night, occasionally the dog and I would sit back there and I would sit in my chair, and she'd sit next to me, and just kind of watch the fire and just kind of enjoy life, and have a beer or something, But I will tell you, if you've never experienced this, I lived in an area where there was no city lights. So you could literally look up at the sky on a clear night and see the edge of the Milky Way galaxy.
Wow.
That's how dark and clear the skies were down there in the mountains. It was just absolutely beautiful. I love sitting out at night. So we were, the dog and I were sitting out there, fire's crackling, having a nice time. And you could hear all the, like all the frogs and the crickets and everything else going, and the occasional donkey, or Jenny as they call them, across the hill, making all kinds of weird noises, as donkeys will do. But it was weird. It just literally, like, all the sound stopped. Like there were no crickets, no nothing. And it was eerie. Like the skin on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt like I was being watched. I felt uncomfortable, but I wasn't scared. I just felt uncomfortable. It was because I'd never, experienced that before. The dog raised her ears. She was laying next to me. She raised her ears a little bit. And keep in mind, my dog is not a mean dog. It was hard to get her even to bark at people. Like, she would lick people to death. That was the kind of dog she was. I actually, I'd never seen her get upset as far as, that goes. So she just lifted her ears a little bit. So I think she knew something was up, but she wasn't making any noise. And then that's when kind of the smell hit. It was weird. It was like it kind of rolled down the hill, and it almost smelled like somebody opened the door to an outhouse, like, and really bad BO kind of smell, like if somebody didn't take a shower for a year, or if Forrest Gump running across the United States didn't take a shower the whole time, it's kind of what it would have reminded me of. But so, as a kid, I was a Bigfoot fan. I was constantly reading books and stories and stuff. So the first thing that crossed my mind was, nah, it can't be. This can't be happening to me, so it can't be Bigfoot. It can't be, whatever. It's probably just a bear or something like that, or even one of my creepy neighbors or something, whatever. Walking down the hill, because there's a lot of people because there's a lot of old abandoned copper mines and stuff on a few of the properties. So, and a lot of Native American artifacts were found. So, a lot of times people hang out in the woods back there. So, I thought, well, maybe it could be one of those guys or something. But then the dog, this is what kind of changed it for me. The dog started baring her teeth. She wasn't growling. I looked down at her, and literally she was baring her teeth, and her ears were like pinned back. I'd never ever seen her do that before. And so that kind of worried me. And to back up a little bit, I always kept my rifle with me whenever I'd go outside, because there were a lot of animals in the area that are native to the area, like black bears and wolves and coyotes, and so I always had the rifle. I had a 30-30 sitting next to me just in case. So when the dog bared her teeth, I started to get a little worried, because I thought maybe it was a bear or something like that, and I might have to, But then she started growling. She started making this little, almost like a whimpering growl. It wasn't like an angry growl. It was like she was scared. Then that's when I kind of looked, and keep in mind, I haven't heard anything until this point. I looked up at the top of the hill, like kind of over the fire, and in the tree line, I could see like these like orangish looking, I don't want to say they were glowing. I think maybe the fire made them glow, but these set of eyes that were very high in the tree line. And they weren't blinking. They were just kind of open. They were just kind of staring at me. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why isn't this thing blinking?
Right.
So I made a motion like I was going to pick up my rifle and aim it in that direction. And then that's when whatever it was, went crazy. Like it started, like trees started shaking, and like just really loud, like grunting, like if you had a really like a 1,100-pound kid that was like throwing a tantrum, it was scary as hell. Pardon my French. It was like, holy crap. So I thought, okay, well, this has got to be a bear. Like this bear's like pissed off or something. Maybe I'm in its territory or whatever.
Right.
So I see it finally blink, but then like the eyes stay closed, like they don't open again. And then like a few seconds later, then they open. Like it's real slow. Like it's not like a human blink, it's real slow. And then I could see it move a little bit to the right. It only moved maybe 10 feet to the right. And I kept thinking to myself, these eyes have to be at least 6 or 8 feet off the ground. Like, cause I knew like the height of the trees at that point.
Yeah.
So I took the rifle and I pointed it in that direction. Like I was prepared to defend myself, kind of thing. I wanted to show whatever it was that I was prepared to defend myself. Cause at this point, my dog she was like ready to go. I mean, it's like, she was like,
wow.
I would have been hard to try and restrain her,
Yeah. What type of dog did you have?
Border Collie.
Okay.
And she was my horse dog. She would round up the horses for me.
Yeah.
So once I pointed the rifle in that direction, in my mind, I had the intention, well, I'm going to fire a warning shot. I'm not going to fire at it. I'm going to fire to like one side or the other or whatever. As soon as I lifted the rifle and pointed it in that direction, this thing went crazy again. But this time I could hear branches breaking and like real heavy footprints, whatever.
Mm.
And it was like kind of yelling, like it was kind of like, and it went on for like, it felt like an eternity. Like when you're in panic mode, it seems like everything goes on for an eternity. It probably was only like a minute. But when that happened, it just stopped, and then I could hear it. It sounded like an elephant running through the trees, like the branches were breaking or whatever, and then it was gone. And about 5 minutes later, the crickets started, the frogs started, and all the other stuff started again, and the dog settled down. And the next morning, I went up to where that tree line was there, and all the branches that were broken, I couldn't reach them with my own hands. Like I couldn't, like the tallest ones. So I asked my neighbor who was a local sheriff. He lived at the end of the road. Turns out he had an incident with that same creature that same night, and apparently I caused it, because when I pissed it off, he had this big piece of yard art in his front yard. It was like an old, like a 30s pickup truck, a rusted out truck that was sitting on that his wife used as a planter, like had flowers in the bed and stuff like that. So there's a place in Tennessee called Huddle House where everybody goes for breakfast. You know, it's like a Waffle House, but smaller kind of thing. And it was the closest thing to my house, like within 5 miles. You know, outside of that, I had to drive a half an hour to get anywhere. So I went to the Huddle House the next morning, and I'm sitting there having my usual biscuits and gravy and stuff like that. And Tom comes up, who was the neighbor down the road. He sits next to me and he goes, do you have any problems at your place last night? I'm like, funny you should say, but I don't know if it was a problem, but I scared the crap out of something, and something scared the crap out of me last night. And I said, I'm not going to say what I think it was, because you'll think I'm crazy, but it was big. It was huge. Whatever it was had to have been at least nine or so feet tall. And he just kind of shook his head and he goes, well, you must have pissed it off, because something last night came in our front yard and pushed over our pickup truck in the front yard. It literally pushed it over onto its side.
What? And
he goes, you could see the footprints in the front yard where it was getting leverage, and it pushed it over because the footprints were stretched because it was muddy, like it was like had slipped. He goes, so whatever it was came through our yard, pushed that over, and kept going down to the end of the road, because there's like an old lumber mill at the end of the road. And he goes, it went that direction. So I said, so I'm not crazy then? He goes, no. He goes, you're new to this area. You've only lived here, a couple months. Wait till you've been here for a few years or a few decades or whatever. There's a bunch of them around here, is what he said. He didn't come out and say Bigfoot. He goes, with all these abandoned copper mines and stuff like that, he goes, we've got all kinds of stories from all the families around here, even the Native Americans that lived in that area. Just it was like a kind of a hot spot. So that's my story. I tried to keep it short.
Isn't there wasn't there discovered mounds in Ohio?
Yeah, there are several types of mounds in Ohio. There's actually but this was in Tennessee. But in Ohio, there's some mounds you can only see what they are from the air. Like you have to, like, some are like serpent mounds. There's one that's supposedly along like a ley line of the earth, and it has some kind of unusual properties, like magnetic properties or whatever. And it's like got quartz or something in there or whatever. Like whoever built it knew what they were doing and knew where they were building it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I hear they're so big, a man could have never, have built those mounds, they were saying.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I remember you were saying that there have been sightings in Ohio as well. Something I'll just remember, like, what I kind of heard about there being mounds there. And I remember watching L.A. Marzulli doing a study on the mounds, and, when he was talking about the giants and the Nephilim.
Yes.
And so, man, that's interesting. But this was in Tennessee, though. Like,
this was in East Tennessee. This was in just north of Knoxville. It was in Union County, and home of. I lived in Luttrell, Tennessee, and that was home of Kenny Chesney for you country fans. Matter of fact, Town Hall in Luttrell, Tennessee, is about as big as my living room, and they have a sign out front that says Luttrell, Tennessee, home of Kenny Chesney. The sign's bigger than the building. So it's like they're proud of Kenny.
Yeah.
Hello, Natalie.
Hey, Natalie, how are you? And Deb, hey, Deb. Linda, good to have you on.
That's scary but exciting. But yeah, it was scary. And I never, still to this day, never actually used the word Bigfoot or Sasquatch, but it was almost an understood for the people around there that, yeah, Mr. Hoxton had his first encounter with the locals, so to speak, you know. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Wow. I mean, that's the first I've ever heard something like that in Tennessee, though.
Oh, I guess apparently it's,
man,
I'm not the only one.
Yeah, that's something, man. That's something. But yeah, it's amazing. And we're on my 7 o'clock show, we're going to be talking about kingdom dominion against evil. You know, how we're, you know, pretty much we're the top of the dominance chain when it comes to, you know, especially when it comes to evil, you know. But you get so many people who are so in fear. You know, the devil uses fear to that's one of his weapons is fear and, you know, ignorance and different other things. But he uses fear to kind of paralyze you and then, you know, to keep you from being able to defeat him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Not knowing that, listen, you know, by the power of God, Christ being in you and with you, then, you know, he's giving you authority, you know, over these spirits, over these demons, over anything that is operating out of evil, you know. So it's like, you know, we don't have to be afraid, we don't have to be scared, but you know, most people don't know, you know, how to get over that fear. And the best thing is knowing who you are, like know who you are in Christ as a child of God, knowing that God loves you so much, he'll never allow anything to hurt you, or, you know, especially something, you know, that is of the devil, because he's already defeated. He has no power at all, you know, unless you give it to him. You know what I mean? The only power you give to him is, you know, when you're in fear, when you're in fear, you know. So
and there's the reason they use fear. Fear is a powerful thing. I mean, just we're at such a young age where we understand and we experience fear very young, and it's a hard feeling and hard emotion to get around until you develop that relationship with God, and then you start losing the fear. You start believing in yourself, first of all, that, you know, if it, first of all, this is how I look at really dangerous situations. If it's your time, it's your time. If God's chosen that this is your time, it's your time. There's nothing you can do to change it. And if there is something you can do, then do it. You know, so there's no reason. You've taken away the reasons to be afraid right there. You've so if you can do something to not be afraid or to change the situation or whatever, then do it, and that'll help you.
Yeah.
It's helped me in the past. I mean, like, even that encounter that I had in Tennessee, any other time in my life, I would have had to pull a Joe Biden and change my drawers. And I would have, you know, they would have called me Poopy Pants Hogston. But at that point in my life, this was probably in mid 2000s, like 2005.
Okay.
And I was to the point in my life where things just don't scare me. They don't scare me because I have that confidence that, you know, either everything's going to be a-okay or it's my time. And if I can do something about it, I'll do it. If not, I'm not going to. And I know we're getting off the subject here, but fear is a very, very, very big tool that a lot of these people and others have in their tool belt, and that's why they use it all the time, and that's why the controlled news media uses it, and it uses it like a big hammer, because you know, they know it works, they know it's effective, they know people have a hard time overcoming it. And so, like, as you stated, you know, your relationship with Jesus, your relationship with God, your walk with God, should give you the confidence that, you know, you're far more powerful than any of these evil
Oh yeah.
entities are.
Oh yeah. And that's why they use fear, because the reason why fear dominates people is because of ignorance.
Mhm.
They don't know. I mean, anytime you go somewhere and you don't know where you're going, or somebody approaches you and you don't know them, you don't know what they're capable of. It's all based on ignorance. Fear is based on ignorance. Fear and ignorance goes hand in hand. Yes, I pray daily that my mind and thoughts belong to the Lord, so that fear can't creep in. That's right. Because ultimately, as you grow in a relationship with God, your love becomes perfected in God. Like, meaning, because perfect love casts out all fear, the Bible says. So to be perfected in love is to grow in that relationship with God. It's like growing in relationship with your wife or your spouse. It's like you grow in that. The more time you spend, the more you have communication and all those things. You grow in perfecting the love that you have for that person. And so when you love God and you have that relationship with God to the point where you know without a doubt that God is never going to allow anything to hurt you, or anything to harm you or whatever, then it's easy not to fear at all, because
Mhm.
you get to a point where it's just like, I'm not afraid of anything. Like, I'm a child of God. Like, I'm the top of the whole
Right.
I'm a part of the top of this whole dominance, of existence, period. And children of God, human beings, are at the top of God's creation. Because he's the one that has given us, dominion, authority, and ultimately he wants us to be one with him, Father, Son,
Right.
and Holy Spirit. So it's like, we should have that confidence in God, where our Father, he loves us so much to the point where he's not going to allow anything to hurt you anyway. So you don't have to be afraid.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a good point because it builds confidence, and
Mhm.
not only just in your life, but in things that you pursue, things that you're
Yes.
active in,
Yes.
things, and that's getting involved in your local community, whatever. It breeds confidence, and once you have confidence, confidence is hard to overcome. I don't know if you've ever come across somebody that's just so confident in something, they walk in the room, the whole room lights up, kind of thing, and you suddenly become confident because they're confident. And
Yes. It rubs off. Yep.
so I'm going to play a couple little video clips. I'm going to apologize for the resolution because these are like copies of copies of copies of something I found sometime, whatever. So I'm going to
Okay.
apologize for the resolution of them, but there's a lot of accounts, and this is why I take some of these seriously, because some of these videos are from like law enforcement officers, like,
Oh
so
wow.
from their dash cams, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
that's why I have a tendency to like believe their stories, because you know they're documented with their own equipment, and
Mhm.
they're on their way doing something else. There was another clip I'm going to play. This happened in New York. There was a group, I think this was in the 80s. There was a group of campers. They were out filming a video kind of thing and talking. In the background where their campsite was, you could see this big creature walk by their tent, and then what looked like a baby creature jump off the shoulder of the bigger creature into the trees and start swinging around in the trees behind them while they're filming whatever they're doing in the foreground.
Wow.
And again, I'm going to apologize for the resolution ahead of time. So
Mhm.
I'll try to narrate, I guess, but some of these, I'm not going to play the whole clips because these people go into depth about trying to, sharpen things, but Try
Mhm.
Driver is where I found this one. So let me scooch up here. I think it was about halfway. There we go. Let's see here.
Now, where are they located? Do you know?
This is the one that's in New York, and I can't remember where in New York.
Okay.
But in the foreground, you can see their car, and then it's hard to see the people. But where the trees are in the background, at the bottom of the trees, that's where all their tents are.
Okay.
But there was a very clear shot of it here. It was around. Uh, I hate when people keep zooming in stuff,
I know.
especially when it's blurry already. It's like,
Mhm.
stop zooming. See that? You'll see it here in a second. See, it's kind of
Yeah.
moving in the trees there. and then you'll see it.
There's some small coming out there.
All right.
Like some type of monkey or something.
That's kind of what it looked like at first, but I should have wrote down the timestamp, but you can see these guys talking in the foreground. But if you see the whole original video, you'll see something walk across right about here. And then this jumps off its back, and then it literally does like a jungle gym kind of thing and starts swinging around in the branches and stuff. And again, this is just somewhere like probably in upstate New York. But you can kind of see the other figure right here. You see it right there?
Yeah.
Just kind of standing there. So, take that for what you will. This clip kind of annoys me, but it's hard to find good clips. I'm going to play the other one because the other one's a little bit better. All right, let's see here. Here's the. I want to say this was
dash cam.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I tend to believe it. Let's see. This was in Lumpkin County, Georgia. Okay. I'll play the beginning because you'll hear them talking first.
Here it goes. Same thing, If somebody's kicking in your door, I can articulate that in court. They have got no good intentions. Yeah. Their intentions are to harm you. Yeah. I can very, very easily articulate that. But they will though. The old ladies in this county, they'll liable to shoot first, ask questions after they've got your body.
Oh, don't you know?
Yeah, I had several of them tell me that. They're like, look, I've lived in this county since I was 12 years old. Had the farm, daddy's farm. Yeah. Still got the land. And anybody coming on my property looking for no good, I'm going to shoot them.
Absolutely. What the heck?
What?
All right, and the actual like high definition version of this, it's clearly visible. So I'm going to go to the end where they kind of tighten it up a little bit here. But you could clearly see. Oops.
Good, I'm going to shoot them.
Absolutely. What the heck?
Jeez. Hold on. Right there.
Oh yeah.
It literally, it comes from the right side of the screen and takes 2 steps across a 2-lane highway, and it's already in the other side of the road. And it was upright. You could hear the guy talk about, let me go back to the beginning because he'll describe it.
But they will though. The old ladies in this county, they'll liable to shoot first, ask questions after they've got your body.
Oh, don't you know?
Yeah, I had several of them tell me that. They're like, look, I lived in this county since I was 12 years old. Had the farm, daddy's farm.
And this is in Georgia, right?
Yep.
And anybody coming on my property looking for no good.
This was like in 2009.
Okay.
What the heck?
What the crap?
What was that?
Did you see that?
Yes.
Holy crap.
What the heck was that?
That was on 2 feet, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So you said it was on 2 feet.
Oh, my goodness.
Can he shine a spotlight?
Things actually.
Yeah, he's got his lights on and his spotlight. He's turning around.
Video.
Probably would have almost tapped you, but he's recording.
I mean, you could hear the engine too, like he wants to get back there.
Yeah.
You see anything down there?
Mm-mm. Yes. So I don't know what the heck it is. It's something going. See it?
Where's that?
It's right over there. I don't know what it. Now it's.
Hang on a second. Let me get over here. It's not a person.
Anyway, long story short is they don't catch up to it again. They see it run off basically. But I always find these videos interesting because they are from law enforcement, because it's recorded on their dash cam, it's not like it's photoshopped or something like that.
Right.
There's another one in Russia. This one's
really?
a little better quality. I think the people that submitted it, again, I don't know where it's at, but the tagline was Yeti in Russia ?
Сегодня обещали плюс 27 на Ты вот по такой дороге едешь, буксует УАЗик идет, снег мягкий вообще. Вот по морозу он идет, хрустит, все хорошо. А здесь вот, смотри, опять ездили, тут машина ходит.
Yeah, video much clearer.
Местные, наверное, местные, коров искали.
Даже, бля, в городе снегоходов-то раз и общался.
Местные, наверное. Сейчас надо приехать, баньку сегодня готовить или завтра.
Не знаю. Сейчас, блядь, полчаса пока ехать будем, пока тебе даже снег. Уже, блядь.
О, лось,
See it there?
лось.
Yeah.
Ну, лось нахуй, блядь, медведь нахуй. Стой.
It's funny because they drive up there and they drive over the footprints and then back up over the footprints.
Oh God.
But anyway, for those that missed it, let's go back real quick.
Лось.
Right there.
Yep. He's running across.
Лось нахуй, блядь, медведь нахуй.
Doesn't take much to get the Russians excited. Let me tell you, man. Those they sounded pretty emotional.
Mm-hmm.
We'll throw in a couple picks here that I think are kind of important picks because they're not photoshopped.
That looks like a monkey or an ape.
It sort of does. This was in where did it? Michigan. There's a couple in Upper Peninsula in Michigan. This was caught on a like a trail cam, you know, like those cams they put on trees, you know, to track deer and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it does kind of look like it has a monkey butt a little bit, but you know, why would there be a chimpanzee or gorilla up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan?
Yeah.
Unless there was one escape, which who knows. But anyway, so take that for what you will.
Wow.
This is kind of a famous one here. This was on another trail cam.
Okay.
You can see on the bottom here, when they analyze this picture, whatever this is, there's a baby one holding on to it.
Yeah.
This is like a hand or whatever holding on to the arm, and it's not conclusive of anything, but you know, it is kind of interesting. You know,
yeah, like it could be some type of other type of animal or being, or
it could be, you know, if anybody's ever seen an animal with mange can do some pretty weird things to animals because their hair falls out and they look all weird and everything. So, this one is in Florida. This is kind of a famous one too. This is the skunk ape we talked about last time.
Okay.
This guy named Sheely in 1998. There's a video that goes along with this, but it was kind of bad quality too. But there's a whole series of these photographs of this, and it was walking upright, so it wasn't, you know, like going down on all fours every once in a while. It was completely walking upright the whole time. It had reddish colored hair all over its body. There was also, this was in Upper Peninsula, Michigan. There's a video that goes with this if you get to see it on, you know, Google it. This is a bad image of it, but this was a creature of some kind. It was crossing this river in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan. The video is probably about 5 minutes long. The guy got a lot of video of it, and it looks like it's holding a baby, whatever
That's what it looks like from here now.
And when it's walking, you can kind of see, you know, sorry ladies, but you can see the swinging of the breasts, so to speak, as it's walking across. But it was clearly like holding another animal, whether it was a baby or whatever. And this was again in the Upper Peninsula, Michigan.
Wow.
This was in a radio show, like in Mix 106 or something like that in Idaho. Idaho suddenly became big with Bigfoot stuff. And some family caught this image outside their window. And this is the radio host talking to the family or to the person that got this image. That would scare me if I saw that outside my window.
That's an evil one there.
That is it'd make you have a double take.
Yeah.
And this was also in Idaho. This is kind of another famous one. It was a video associated with it, you know, where this creature was walking down this valley or, you know, through this area. And so again, take it for what you will. It's I think it's
and there's tons more of sightings and all, you know, all over, man. I mean, you search on the internet, man, and you see, if you search the amount of sightings and reports of, Bigfoots, and of course, to the point, it's going to get to the point now where just like how they did with the alien disclosure. I mean, it was so many reports that they had to put it out. I mean, the Pentagon had to put out something because too many people are seeing these things.
Right.
They're gonna have to do the same thing for these Bigfoots. Let people know, hey, there's other beings amongst us. Whether they're interdimensional, whatever. But
right.
there are other beings amongst us.
And who knows? Like you said, we've talked about this before, and you've brought this up, that time period where there's really no explanation. That time period after was it after Revelation and
between Genesis 1 and 2?
Yes, sorry, there you go, thank you. So
chapter 1 verse 1 and 2.
So who knows what was happening around that time. We already know there's giants. We already know, there's a lot of accounts of even angels. There's so many different types of and looks and whatever of angels. I mean, angels don't always look humanoid, so who knows? I mean, they definitely fall into, at least in my mind, into that spiritual realm, interdimensional being, whatever you want to call them.
Because listen, we're everything physical started off as something spiritual. It's just like absolutely. Us. We're spiritual beings in this meat suit. Some people call it a meat suit.
The Edgar suit.
Yeah, and these fleshly bodies. I mean, listen, you're more real than these bodies. Like your spirit man is more real than these bodies. And so the same thing with other physical beings is behind every physical being, there's a spirit. There's a spiritual person. So that's inside of a physical meat suit or whatever you want to call it. So it's like, and you got to understand too that there are so many created beings that exist that God had made, that a lot that we don't even know about. The only difference is that there are a lot of beings that God created, and there are beings that God created that may have been manipulated by the devil. All right. Remember, Satan cannot create. So the only thing he could do is manipulate, whatever God has made and change it into something else. This is, we see that happening today, where you got all kinds of DNA type of.
Well, look at how open they are about transhumanism now. Look at how open they are about that. And pushing that. So it's right. It's right out there. I mean, it can, you said, it can be manipulated. We know that. And so when you add an evil element to it, who knows what could come of it.
Right. And this is why the devil, tries to possess humans so that he can control, the top of the dominance, the most dominant existed being, or because we were not created, we were made. Because see, we're the only species, spiritual beings that came from God. The Bible says we were made, we weren't created. God created the heaven and earth and all those things. God made man, and what did he do? When he made man, what he did was he made these earthly, suits from the dust of the earth. But then what did he do? He blew life. He blew, his life. He blew himself, part of himself within this body, and man became a living soul. So we got to understand, it gets really, really deep when you really understand and know, realize who you are and what you are, but that'll be a whole nother teaching.
Right.
That right there, when you really realize and understand who and what you are, you won't fear anything. Trust me, you will get to the point where you don't fear anything. You might get nervous a little bit in certain situations, but fear, I mean, the terror, I'm talking about the terror fear, you won't experience that. The only fear you will experience is reverence for God, your Father, and that's the type of fear that is, is good.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What was I had a thought. had to do with meat suits too.
Oh yeah,
Anyway.
these
Anyway,
dust from the earth.
no, when you said meat suit, it just reminded me of something, and I can't think of it now. But I'll think of it probably 3:00 in the morning tonight. So
Yeah. But yeah, the DNA editing and all that stuff, that's what the devil is doing now. And you got clones. We talked about clones and all that other stuff. And this is how the devil tries to create meat suits for the spiritual wickedness and demons and fallen angels to get inside. He's pretty much trying to do the same thing God does,
right.
So
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. And well, people, it's been another wonderful episode. Hopefully you found this
the time
interesting.
went by quick.
I know. Like I said, you could talk about all, it's just so much you could talk about.
Yeah, so much, man. So much.
But, thank all of you that have hung around and stuck on here and participated. Appreciate that. God bless you.
Yes.
If you have a chance or have some extra time, go over to Joe's channel after this. Is it at 7:30?
7:30, yes.
Okay.
7:30.
And watch his program he's got coming on here. And he's going to talk about exactly what he's talking about here. And you pick up some armor of God in the process,
Oh yeah. I want people to not fear anymore. Fear is bondage, and this is what the cabal wants. Satan, he wants to fill you with fear. He uses fear to control us and to keep us in bondage, keep us enslaved. So, when you come out of fear and ignorance, there's freedom, and the only way to that is through Jesus Christ. He's the way, the truth, and the life. There's no fear in love, and there's no slavery. He who the Son sets free is free indeed. So that's my only hope, that people embrace the love of God and just put aside all fear. You get to a point where you don't fear anything anymore.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Dingle, I appreciate you coming on with us, or coming on again.
Yes.
You are the co-host, so hopefully you're hopefully you're here.
Oh, yeah.
But just so everybody knows, we want to keep these to about an hour and every other week. And if there's any subjects that you want to listen to or talk about, or try to dig into a little bit, leave us, drop us a line in the comments, and join the Telegram channel and participate. We want you to participate. And see, Linda Mom says, thanks guys, enjoyed it. Faith over fear. Absolutely. See, Julie says, thanks guys, like to see a show about significance of numbers in the Bible and things like binary codes and calendar time, etc. That's a good idea.
That's a very good idea.
And then let's see, Christy Foster says, watch MRBB333 on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Not sure what that is, but check it out.
Search them. Yeah.
But love you guys. Thanks for showing up and sticking around with us. And until next time, my friend, Joe, it was awesome to see you again.
Yes.
And fun as usual. Always interesting. And
absolutely.
Look forward to the next one.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And good luck on the show.
Yes. Tune in, please.
And is it at the joedingle.com?
I don't think it's going to stream live there. It's just going to be on the YouTube channel. But if you go to my website, you can get to the link to the YouTube channel.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, Christy Foster says Nephilim. That's what that MRB333 on YouTube is referring to. Okay.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Check it out.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, guys. Have a great evening. God bless you all. And until next time, peace out.
All right.
I've always wanted to say that. Peace out.
Peace out.